One day I was just searching Genshin on Weibo, the Chinese Twitter, and I found a surprising amount of Alhaitham Kawa ships. And at that point I was like, it could be a fun TikTok to search up what are the actual most popular ships. I wrote a script that goes through every single AO3 fanfic, which is like one of the biggest fanfic sites. It took a long time because we are talking about millions of works in total. So it took a while, but eventually I went through every single combination. I wrote them all down and I made some stats. And what I thought would be just a quick TikTok, oh my god, I collected so much more. I don't think the top 3 is surprising to anyone. Child Zhongli, even though in the game they are not friends by any means, probably that's one of the reasons they're one of the most favorites. Alhaitham Kawa, they're almost canon at this point. The newly released setters had a line about them.
Something about those two guys hanging out together. You just can't look away.
They are sus, like when they're talking to each other, they're definitely sus. Third place, we had Diluc and Kaya, one of the OGs. Again, ever since the game was released, those two have been shipped. They're technically stepbrothers, which explains the fanfics, unfortunately, I think. But now for the rest of the list, we have not really necessarily a ship, but Reader and Layla. Basically, the Reader fanfics are ones when you kind of read through the person in the fanfic's POV, and she's someone who's a sleepwalker. It has 6,400 works. I don't even want to know about one. I don't want to know the contents. The fourth on the list is Venti and Xiao, and on one hand it's weird because those two barely ever interacted in the game. There was only one limited time event when those two had any interaction. But on the other hand, that one was a very, very important one. We even got the short video Endless Suffering out of that.
Tonight, I just want to rest. How long do you think your body will last against my blows?
As for characters, they're kind of on the opposite side of the spectrum, but just like with Child and Zhongli, I can see that like the opposites attracting each other, so I understand this one as well. Actually, coming in at number 5, it's none other than Nubilet Vriously, which is the first Fontanians. They have 4,500 works, which is quite impressive. Fountain just came out. Well, I mean, just is like half a year ago or something. And do I need to explain, like, those guys are quite close even in the story? Maybe not as like a romantic relationship, but you know, just a little bit of imagination and anything is possible. After that, just to go through, we have Albedo Kaya. Then we have the first Traveler, which is Ether and Xiao. And also this is Xiao's second appearance in the list. But obviously, I can understand Xiao is such a cool character. And actually, just right after Ether, we have Lumine and Child as well. Once again, I don't want to necessarily know the contents of that particular one, but I can definitely see this fanfic existing. I am not really surprised to see it here. So no surprises there. There are some more names in the list if you're curious. I'm a little worried why we have Lumine Ether 1,700 works. I'm a little bit worried about that one. And in case you're curious, yes, we have 3 ships that has exactly 69 works. Kinda random, but not that many works, so that's fine. But the stats did not stop here, because after I got all the data, I was like, I can do something with that. I collected some more. I spent kind of like a whole day just collecting data. And first of all, I wanted to check which characters has the most work. Number 1, again, not really surprising, being Child. The Rascal Harbinger, I think, works in both traditional and yaoi fanfics, so that's why his number is super high, even surpassing Reader, which, as I said before, a lot of fanfics are from a reader's perspective, and Child has even more than that. He is the only one who has more than that. And there's a somewhat of a gap after, but second place is Zhongli. Again, I'm not surprised. He still has the most popular video on the Genshin channel. And obviously the pillars and everything. I think the jokes write itself a lot of times. The names afterwards, Kea, Xiao, Diluc, those are, again, very popular characters. I can see them working in both traditional and yaoi. But we have the first girl. After all these guys, we have the first girl being Lumine. And finally, after that is Ether, and there's not that much of a difference. There's like a 45 difference, but Lumine has a tiny bit more fanfics. After that, there is also just a bunch of guys. Scaramouche, Alhaitham, Kabe, Albedo, Venti, Kazuha, and Jin. There is Jin. That's the first girl after Lumine. But these are the total amount of works, like how many times certain characters appeared in fanfics. But I was also curious for each character how many connections there are. Connection meaning is how many characters they have at least one fanfic with. And the first two characters, I don't think they're surprising. Actually, Ether is this time the first one, just the sheer amount of characters paired with. The second one is Lumine, only 2 characters difference. After that, the list looks quite familiar to the previous one. Child, Scaramouche, Kaya, Diluc, Reader, Venti, Zhongli, Hu Tao actually being quite up. I forgot to include this in the video, but I don't think it's gonna be surprising to anyone. The character with the least amount of connection is Aloy with 5. Those 5 being the Reader, Aether, obviously, and from the other characters, Eula, Hu Tao, and Xingyan. If anyone knows why, enlighten me in the comments. And I talked about the Reader a lot and like this Reader POV. So I was also curious which is the most popular Reader connections. Like what the fanfic writers wanted the readers to experience having connections. This is, you know what I mean. First one is Layla, as you could see, even on the top overall list. Second one, and actually by a lot of gap, like that's like the biggest gap on any list I've ever seen. Layla is 6,000. Child with 2,000, like third of the work. What's happening with Rita and Layla? I don't want to know. I actually just don't want to know. The list afterwards is again just the characters you would expect. Child, Diluc, Scaramouche, Xiao, Zhongli, Kaya, Jean, Albedo, Kazuha, Toma. Toma was also, I didn't mention him previously, but Toma was like appearing here and there. Just below like the most popular ships. A lot of times with Ayaka, a lot of times with Ayato as well. That got me thinking. So we've seen Lumine and Ether having a scary amount of ships. What is Ayato Ayaka? Ayaka Ayato, 340. Okay, that's thankfully less than I was expecting. Good job, internet. And if we are at cursed ships, I'm very sorry, but I just had to check how many are with Paimon. Science has gone too far, but I had to check. And the first one it's Lumine. Lumine with almost 600 works. And second one being Venti with 45. Okay, first of all, that's way too many Lumine. But at least like the others are not as much. Ether only 23. Good job, internet. But the Lumine one is shocking. Like, let's move on from this. And by the way, if you're curious, I checked also both travelers, like who are their most shipped people. First of all, for Lumine with Child, she had 4,100. As for Ether, the first one being Xiao with 4,200. Second Lumine with 1,700. Why is she the second? Let's move on from this list. It was quite cursed. At this point, I was super deep into statistics, so I wanted to get like the most useless but somewhat fun stats. I wanted to find out the unofficial, official Archon ships. Which character each Archon is shipped with. Venti, it's no surprise, I've already talked this before. It's none other than Xiao. Zhongli, also no surprise, I talked about this before, with Child. And also A or Bal, once again, not a surprise, it's with Miko. Those I think everyone expected them. The next one is gonna be a little cursed with Nahida. And obviously every character would be cursed with Nahida, but it's Scaramouche. Officially, it's Scaramouche. I'm happy to announce that this is the least amount of works with 889. But still, guys, what the hell? Anyways, I didn't know if I should check Furina or Nuilet, because technically both of them are somewhat Archons. So I checked both. Furina actually was with Nuilet, that's 1,300. And Nuilet was with Riotley, with a little bit of triangle going on in here. But that's for the characters. I went even deeper. So I wanted to know in total number of works how many gay, lesbian, and straight ships there are. Somewhat unsurprisingly, I think, by a landmile, like not even close, we have the most gay fanfics. Of course, yaoi still dominates the fanfic sphere with more than 100,000 total works. And to my surprise though, the second one is actually just traditional straight relationships with 71,000, and the lesbian Yuri relationship just 30,000. That's so much less than I was expecting. But if we look once again, not the total number, but just each relationship, then we see a little more clear picture how this happens, with straight connections being the most, being a little more than 1,000. And coming at second is actually the Yuri, the lesbian ones, 763, which kind of just means there are a lot more diversity, not like just selected amount of people. And actually there are the least amount of yaoi or gay relationships with 433. Even though they have the most total works, they have the least amount of connections, if that makes sense. Next, I wanted to find out, I'm crazy, I know, if there are more local or long distance fanfics with just like, are they from the same region or from a different one? And not surprisingly, the long distance one with 107,000. But surprisingly, the local ones are not far behind, like about 100,000. On one hand, it makes sense because obviously whenever there is one region released, those characters interact more, so there is more chance that people are gonna be writing those fanfics. But I also see why the long distance ones are that popular, since there are just more options like that. And if you're curious about each nation's rundown, the most, unsurprisingly, is Mondstadt, then Inazuma, then Sumer, then Lilia, then Fonten. And the first one that's not a local one is Lia Shiznaya with 15,000. But that's basically just like the only child fanfics, like literally that's almost just that. And after that we have a lot of Mondstadt, something else, Lia, something else, Inazuma, something else, with something else. A lot of times being the traveler, as they are from an unknown region. That's how I categorized it. Okay, I know I'm super deep into the stat rabbit hole. I mean, not the stat. This is gonna be the last one, I swear, this is the last one. I wanted to find out which Genshin team comp has the most synergy. Scientifically, literally the most synergy judged by fanfics. For that one, okay, I'm gonna get super technical here, I'm sorry. I made a 4-dimensional matrix when I was adding up to each position how the 4 character matches with each other. So basically I put this all into a calculation, and since this is like 10 million something calculations, it would have taken me probably years to calculate. I actually asked ChatGPT to help me calculate this a little bit faster, so if you don't want to get too technical, basically if you take 4 characters and each possible relationship between them, which is the highest number of works there exist. This is how I could explain it without going into 4D matrices. And this team was, unsurprisingly, but no one else than Child, Diluc, Zhongli, and Kaya. And to put it to work, yes, we even tested it out in an actual game. Was it good? No, probably not. My child is level 40, I think. I'm never playing him. So at this point I was thinking, yeah, maybe this is enough. I spent literally a whole day just making stats of random Genshin ships. I think this is the most I could have ever done. If you're curious about some other stat, then make sure to leave a comment. I don't think if I missed anything, but I'm happy to accommodate your weird ideas. And in the description, I'm also gonna leave a link to the actual spreadsheet where I was collecting all the data, so you can go crazy on it if you want. I was having a lot of fun. I was having more fun than I probably should have, just like doing stats. It was fun. It was absolutely useless. I wasted a whole day, but it was fun, and I learned a lot of things. See you in the next video, which is probably not gonna be stats, it's probably just gonna be Genshin.